Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Ta-da! I'm in. Were you worried for a second that I wasn't here? Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show is The Listening Mentor. And today we're going to discuss the topic that summer is coming. How do we prepare? What do we need to know? What does this have to do with listening? We're going to find out. Let's welcome our guest. She's a regular guest here, one of our team members. She's an elevated listener, and she is also the Harley Street stress expert. If anyone can help you bust your stress, it's this wonderful woman. Let's welcome her to the program. Hello. And welcome. Hello. Nice to see you. How are things in London with all the festivities?
It's very busy, very, very busy indeed. Everybody's in the streets. You wouldn't think there was anything going wrong in London at all. You know, it's wonderful. It's very fun. It's like, you know, the world has come back to normal, which is wonderful.
Well, I've been watching some of it on television when I'm not on television, and it looked like a fabulous festivities in honor of Her Majesty. Was she actually seen? I think once on the balcony. Was she seen again? Do you know?
Oh, I haven't been able to keep up with things. I've been working too. Yes, I've been working with clients. You know, yes, she's there's a lot around, you know, the Trooping of the Colour and everything that's, you know, sort of all the different activities. It's wonderful, really. I remember the Silver Jubilee. We all had street parties. You know, I was quite young then. So this is good. You know, it's beautiful to be able to celebrate Her Majesty, you know, holding state for this length of time. It's never been known in history.
Yes, it's really an incredible accomplishment. And I'm so glad that she looks beautiful, by the way. She looks beautiful and very alert. And it must be amazing to be loved like that from all over the world.
Considering her age, she's doing well, isn't she?
She sure is. She sure is. Well, Caroline, we have an interesting topic today. And before we get into it, I just want to spotlight you for people who are joining us. We always have new people. We're so grateful, whether they're watching or listening. And I'd love you to just share a little bit about who you are and what is Harley Street. What are you doing there?
Thank you. Well, I'm Caroline Heward, known as the Harley Street stress expert. And why Harley Street? Because all the good doctors and the famous therapists, alternative complementary therapists, are all in Harley Street. And why there? Because I thought if I was going to be doing complementary therapy, then I would do it from an address that people would recognize. And it means that the credentials, my credentials, have been checked by their board and deemed to be saying who I am and what I do. I've been in stress management work since 2000. And so it's now 22 years, so it's quite a long time. And what do I do? If anybody is stressed, we don't really recognize our stress, and it's usually what we're complaining about, what we're not happy about, what we're moaning about or crying about, or the ache and pain, the physicality. And there's always a reason for the fallout, the symptom, whether it's behavioral, physical, mental, or indeed physical in terms of sleep problems, back pain, relationship problems. So whatever it is that we're complaining about is the symptom. And what I do is I identify root cause, what's caused the problem in the first place, because we are living in cycles and the cycle keeps coming around. I identify root cause, which releases the emotion in a safe way, and it alleviates the symptoms. I offer a free consultation on Zoom, and my invitation is for you to take me up on that by emailing me at my email address, NoMoreStress@live.co.uk.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I appreciate that. So let's get into our topic today. Summer is coming. What does that mean, actually? Well, what it means for many people is that there is an opportunity possibly to take a vacation. Maybe they'll be traveling somewhere. Maybe they're going to put on a swimsuit. Ooh, that's a big one. Or maybe they're going to be with people they haven't been with before. There's all kinds of potential changes depending on where you are in the world, depending on what the weather is, depending on what your situation has been during COVID, and maybe you've made some changes in your life and now you're working 24/7 because you were at home and didn't have an opportunity. So I'd love to have us just talk about, as we incorporate change, as we embrace change, or we decide that we're not going to embrace change, how do we prepare? What do we do knowing that change is coming, whatever it might be?
Well, there is lots of people now, things have opened up, actually still feeling unconfident about the changed world and still feeling not safe to be in crowds of people. So these are then psychological things that somebody's experiencing that would be different from their normal, because everything is open, in most countries now. And the fact that you're in crowds for the first time in a long time will create some level of anxiety, or for some people, indeed, panic that, they don't have that space that they're used to, and they're not used to the amount of people around them and the lack of social distancing and the lack of people wearing masks. And it's important to bring these things up because we've been living like this for a long time. And this is probably the first summer where we've really had a big opening, pretty much globally. I can't be sure that there's much in lockdown now. And so this will be, for some, quite scary or uncomfortable, and for others, revelationary, and can't wait and to get back to normality. So there is a management of your mental side of things, the psychology of how you're feeling about being in a crowd.
Really good points. Thank you for sharing that. I had an experience myself this morning where I went into a pharmacy to pick up a prescription, and the woman in front of me was wearing a mask, and the cashier was wearing a mask. The pharmacist was not. And the customer in front of me, she was sharing the fact that she has COVID. And I thought, oh my gosh, I think I should put a mask on. So I had a mask in my bag, but all of a sudden I thought to myself, oh no, I don't feel like going through this all again. What am I going to do? And I felt badly for her, but she said she actually felt fairly well. And so it was interesting. So my point being that I live in a state that's very open. Florida, I think, was open almost the whole time. And I'm going to a state that's very closed to New Jersey, and I have to adjust my mindset. And it does a number on you, because when I lived in New Jersey, I was living in fear in a lot of ways, and I was very isolated for months at a time. And now in this state, it's very open. So I think I can even see it myself, even though I'm broadcasting and talking about all these things, that it does hit home.
Mm. It's because it's a good comparison that you have, because I remember when you first moved to Florida, how you were still wearing a mask and being the only person, and you feeling kind of quite uncomfortable about that. But it is important to talk about these things because it affects us. This is what is there in the world. Whatever our viewpoints are, it is going on. And there are some people that are still wearing masks, and they are, sort of very covered up and very fearful and keeping their distance and not feeling comfortable about being close to people. And it is a truism. It's not something that's, that we are making up here. It's actually happening. And so some people aren't feeling comfortable. And that's the psychology of things, and other people are. And when the people that are feeling really comfortable about the situation, they're literally not having any attention on social distancing at all. There's no attention, on laughing and singing and all these things that, I know this might sound very basic, but for the person that's still in tons of security, fears, about, the changed world, that they have to acclimatize to it. And some aren't, some, really are up to the hilt frightened, that they might get something. So, my invitation for everyone is to have some compassion, because, we're all experiencing this in our own ways. And it's important to have the compassion for the other person that is struggling, the other person that has lost people in this time, because there's been no funerals that they can go to. There's been a challenge with meeting family. And when it opens up, it then becomes difficult for them to readjust. So if you're going back to a place that's more closed, you will experience the differences between the fact that the country's been open and this country that you're going to has been closed, and the differences in the mental capacity of how people are handling it.
Yes. And I think also when you talk about compassion, there are people all over the world who are already fighting to live, that, they're struggling with physical, mental, emotional ailments, and every day is a challenge. And when you add in the whole pandemic or the isolation or the loss, it's overwhelming for many people. So I really think that it is important, as you said, to have compassion and to put yourself in the other person's position, because you just never know. So if we get back to getting together with other people and we're invited to an event, for example, I'll give a perfect example. I'm going to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the United States for a charity walk, which is June the 12th. And there will be thousands of people there. And the last 2 years, I think we'd had as a drive-through, just drive through, and I didn't go because I live far away. But this year I'm actually going in person. And now that the numbers are starting to creep up, I thought to myself, okay, so I'm going to be broadcasting, interviewing people, getting close to people. I don't even know who they are. And I started kind of getting that sense of overwhelm. And finally, I just said to myself, well, this cause is something that's important to you, and you just ask God to be with you and just go for it. I don't know. Are there any other suggestions you might have for me and for other people who are going to be at this event and other events, just like where you are now with all the festivities?
Yes. And that is that if you're in your mind and thinking about all the bad stuff that could happen, might happen, and you're in a place of fear, you will then not enjoy where you are and not enjoy the experience. So my invitation is to drop into the heart by breathing down into the heart and feeling your way through. Because while you're thinking, that's where anxiety lives, in the mind. That's where stress resides, when you're thinking about something. So the invitation is to expand the belly and breathe down into the belly, and that reduces the mind being so active. And the other thing that I would suggest is that having a conversation with someone about how you're feeling, because it might be that other people around you are feeling the same. And so it's almost like a permission-based thing. If you're all feeling a little bit, jittery, and then you're supporting each other, because you don't want to feel like you're the only one that's feeling uncomfortable. And if you're speaking to people that are comfortable, then it will build your confidence to be in that environment. Because if somebody's not worried, not scared, it kind of rubs off on you. And it's important to be in the moment that you're in, rather than in the fear of what could be or might be, which is living through the mind.
I definitely agree with you there, because we can get ourselves so worked up and overwhelmed, and then you're causing additional stress on yourself, which then can result in other issues, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're stressed and anxious about something that might happen, could happen, you're in the mind. And when you're in that space of fear, it has an effect on your breathing. It has an effect on your blood pressure. If you're stressed about something, your blood pressure can go up. If you're worried about something, then you're not in your body, and it could bring on all sorts of things like feeling sick, dizzy, because you're not oxygenating your entire body through the breathing. When we're stressed and anxious, we will breathe naturally in a very shallow way. And so these things are real. If you're feeling stressed and anxious, this happens. People that have asthma attacks, it's because they're breathing in a really shallow way and they can't get their breath because of things that they're experiencing in their mind. So this is serious. This is why people faint at large events or in crowded areas, because they're getting themselves psyched up for something that might be, that actually hasn't happened.
And I've heard that some amount of stress is good for us. Is that true?
Well, it depends how you look at it. Obviously, if you're feeling a little stressed for something like a broadcast like this, then what it does is it kind of gives you an energy to make sure that you're prepared for it. You'll make sure that the tech works, and you'll make sure that everything is sorted. So if you're stressed for a flight, for instance, you'll have extra attention to detail to make sure you've got the passports, that you've packed your all the things that you need, your toothbrush, your toothpaste, and all the things that you really need, because there's a stress in there that's forcing you to make sure you don't forget anything. And so, yes, I suppose on some levels it's good because it makes you have greater attention to detail so you don't forget anything. But then on the other side of the coin, if you're too stressed, you will forget things.
Yes, I know at times when I was in my corporate career before I'd have to give a big presentation, I would get those butterflies and I would feel that kind of excitement, anxiety. But in that way, it was actually good because it got me alert and prepared. And to your point, if you're not prepared, then that causes anxiety. And if you're anxious, then you might forget about everything that you learned when you were prepared because
it's a double-edged sword.
Right. You can't remember because you're so anxious. I often wonder about the people who have given TEDx speeches, what that must be like to have that floor, that stage in front of those people and talk just extemporaneously like that. And I'm sure that they practiced many times before they got up to do it.
I believe so. I've spoken to a lot of TEDx speakers, and there is a necessity to prepare to make sure that they have timed their presentation. They can't kind of be elongating their presentation. They have to know the points that they want to make and make sure that they time the talk that they're going to do. So that's absolutely true. And that's probably one of the reasons why I haven't gone down that route, because I don't prepare. Because I know I know my contents. And so this is what we're doing here. We're literally, you're asking me a question, I'm answering on the hoof. There's nothing prepared here, and I'm answering it, in the moment that you ask me. That's easy for me to do because I have the information. I know my content. I know, I know my subject matter really well. But when you're there in front of the cameras and you only have 15 minutes and it is a TED talk, I would imagine it would put a lot of pressure on people.
Yes, I would imagine the same thing. We were actually having a conversation on the United Kingdom news and culture with our special correspondents, Helen Ashard and Ian Pelham Turner. And Ian was sharing that they're both covering the Jubilee, and they had to get, they got there, I'm sure they were there. They only had a certain amount of time to get to this pop-up place where they were going to broadcast. And he said, sometimes in the past, you're thinking you're covering a topic, and then all of a sudden they come to you for a different topic. Oh, yeah. And that can cause a little anxiety too, but you have to be professional and you have to step up and you have to answer the question. If you don't know the answer, you just have to get the information. You'll get back with it, I guess. So something else I'd like to talk about is, I mentioned before about the bathing suits, and I brought that up for a reason. This summer, at least in my experience, with myself and other people, it can cause anxiety because we're going to be wearing less clothing than we might because of the temperature. And people have body issues. They have all kinds of issues. So what can someone do about that, knowing that, at some point you might have to put on a pair of shorts, or you might be in a bathing suit or a strapless dress or whatever the case may be? How do we deal with that?
I know many people that have to handle this, and they're dieting for months before the summer, especially if they've got a planned holiday. They're already dieting in the winter in preparation for that summer holiday, and they buy clothes that they want to be that weight to wear. So this is something that's a planned thing for many people that have body issues. And if they have body issues and they don't have a strategy of losing weight, then they have a strategy of a wardrobe that's covering them up.
Yeah, I remember listening to a radio station. I want to say it was Howard Stern. I forget, but they were surveying men about which season they actually find women to be most attractive. And the obvious answer would be summer, but it was actually winter. It was winter because it leaves, because you have a lot to the imagination because you can't see skin because it's all covered up, as opposed to the summer when it's all there.
That's really interesting as a perspective. It's true. Because if you can see it all, then there's no kind of that the mind's not working overtime. You know what I mean?
Right.
If it's all there and it's not a challenge, then it's not a challenge. And the masculine energy likes a challenge. So they're almost undressing you in your clothes, if that makes sense, which
Yes.
which has more stimulation than if it's all on show. Yes, there's more attention, with the summer bikinis and swimsuits and shorts, there is attention, but there is the fascination of the undressing with the eyes, because the masculine energy likes to have that experience. They like to have the experience of the challenge. So that would make sense to me. Yeah, that definitely does.
And as an extension of that, I know in my experience over the years, when I was in a dating mindset, the summer was always a good time to go out and meet somebody new. It's like, oh, the season's changing, and this is a great opportunity to maybe leave what you have and go find something new. So have you heard of anything like this, or have you experienced it yourself?
Summer romance. This is what people do, don't they? It's summertime. Relationships are for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And a summer relationship, a summer new beginning in a new relationship is very common because you're feeling more open, more easy to be with somebody. And there's more things open, more things to do when it's not raining and it's not cold, and if it's wet and windy, it just seems less easy, to do those things. But then when it's summer and it's sunny and there's all the outside things, it makes you feel good. It's a well-known fact. SAD is a disease that the UK people suffer with, and it's short for seasonal affective disorder. So we kind of clamp down, and we have a lot of stress and depression in the UK, particularly because our weather, we have long winters. But when the summer comes, the sun is out and we're smiling and we feel better. The fact that it's sunny and it's warm actually changes our mood, and we feel differently. And then the diseases of stress, the ailments of stress aren't there. And we'll feel naturally better than what we normally do in the winter.
When does summer actually start and end there?
It's March, the last week, the last Saturday in March is when it starts. So that's going from GM time to British summertime, and then it lasts till I think it's October. The clocks go backwards in October, and I think that's the last Saturday. can't quote me on this because I'm not absolutely sure. I always have to check. All Brits check when the clocks go back. We never know because we're enjoying the moment that we're in. I believe it's the last Saturday in March. It's 2 a.m. on the Sunday morning that it changes from winter time or GMT time, Greenwich Mean Time, to British summertime.
So do you have 4 seasons there or just 2? Do you have spring and fall?
Yes, we do. It's just that you wouldn't notice it sometimes. My dad would joke, actually, when he was alive, and he would say, very straight-faced, my dad was quite a comedian in his own way, but he was very dry. And he would say, in the world, there are 4 seasons per year. In England, there are 4 seasons per day. And he would just always crack me up because it's true. We could have hail in the morning. It could be sunny in the afternoon and, summer-like. So winter in the morning, summer-like in the afternoon. And we could have April showers, in the evening. It's like, and that's why the British have a fascination. We always talk about the weather. If you talk to anybody that's British, there is always a conversation about the weather because it's so changeable.
But the absolute heart of the winter lasts longer, I guess, than here. So
Yes.
For here, March 21st is the beginning of spring. And I think June 21st is the beginning of summer. And then summer ends in September, I think.
Oh, right. Well, your summer's long. I mean, I've done a lot of training in America, and even the winter isn't really cold, is it? I mean, I've been there in January and February, and it's not cold at all. It's really nice.
I think it depends where you go, because I know for myself, I don't ever want to be in the winter again, somewhere that's cold. I don't want to. So I think it really depends. So that also can bring up anxiety for people, darkness, when it's winter, when we have less sunlight than we do the rest of the year. I remember watching a show with Al Pacino, I think, and it was about him being in Alaska, and I forget if it was bright the whole time, I think, and there was no darkness, so he couldn't sleep because I think it was insomnia or something. But anyway, the seasons also have an impact on us, which causes anxiety.
Yeah, very much so. In England, we had a bit of a trend a long time ago, back in the 80s, where there was a trend to wear sunglasses, but they were called sunshine glasses, and they were really huge with big frames. And when you put them on, the world was sunny. So you just looked like you were looking at sunshine. And it really affected the mood of the person. And even if you were on a bus or a train or a tube, you would have that experience of being in permanent sunshine. And it did affect the mood, and it did affect, sort of your smiling, your capability to enjoy. But when it's dark and it's miserable and it's raining and it's not so good and the sun's not there, and you wake up in the morning and it's dark and you go to bed when it's dark, you just don't feel as good. And, when the sun shines, it lifts the mood. It's well researched, well known about that. When the sun comes out, people rush to the beaches. Certainly in this country, even though we don't have a lot of really great beaches, it doesn't matter. It's about sea, sun, and sand, and that's the mood. It just lifts you and makes you feel different, better, and more positive.
And yet so many people live in London. I'm surprised. It's like, why isn't everyone flocking to get out to go where it's sunny and bright all the time? Well, there's so much culture there.
But it's reasons, work, and location. And yes, the Brits do. As soon as a sunny day, they flock to these places, and they're just overrun, overcrowded. But it's a bit of sun, and the Brits just move straight away to get the sunshine, because it might just be for a day or a couple of days. That's the nature of our summers. We don't always, when it's hot, we just race to the beach to get it in. So yes, that is very true. We will flock to the beaches, we'll go to places that we wouldn't normally go to, and the ice cream comes out. It's like it's because when it's hot, that's it. Ice cream and all the paraphernalia that goes with it, and it really lifts your mood. It just changes your state of being to a more positive state, and it also affects your health as well. It makes you feel better.
And something I'm taking away from what you're sharing is that we started off the show talking about change and how change can bring a lot of anxiety, but change can also bring a lot of joy and a lot
Yes.
of opportunity. And it's about your perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why the sunshine glasses, they really worked. I've seen a few of them about, I think it was last year. And I said, oh, I remember those. And they got them from, touristy type shops, because it's a known fact, that when the world looks sunny and it's bright and it's warm, you literally feel different. That's why people will convalesce at the seaside. This is the nature of how we can change our state and how we're feeling inside. And many people will say, if you're not feeling great, go out and take a walk, go out into nature, go out and take a walk in the sunshine. Even if it's raining, go and take a walk, because you'll feel different and you'll feel better being outside than inside.
And Caroline, thank you so much for sharing all of this wisdom. When do you think it's a call to action to actually go and see an expert? So we've been talking about all different types of situations causing anxiety. When is it time to say, okay, I raise my hand, I really need some help?
It's when the person is not happy, when the person is complaining about something that they're very unhappy about. And there's been a lot in this world, in this change time of the last 2 years, that has caused a feeling of not coping. And it's when you feel you're not coping, and when the anxiety comes up, that you're fearing the holiday rather than looking forward to it. Because we are all human at the end of the day. And even I have my stresses. Even I have things that I'm not handling and coping. And that's because we're all human, having a human experience. It doesn't mean to say that the expert has everything, because we're all human and we all have our own individual challenges that we have to handle. And it depends on how we handle them. And there's certainly been a lot of isolation, enforced isolation away from family, and enforced isolation in terms of things being shut down. I live on my own, so I've literally been on my own unless I go out to be with a group of people or to go to something. And that can cause its own level of anxieties. I've certainly seen when I've been out at events that there are people that have the anxiety about being out, because even though they enjoyed being out previously, there is now an anxiety about being out. And it's those times and those situations that it would be good to reach out and speak to somebody, because that's where it's not serving you.
Thank you, Caroline. As an extension of what you just shared, and we touched on it briefly in the beginning, there are many people who lost someone during the pandemic and they weren't able to say goodbye. Is there a certain amount of time to grieve? Is it sort of perpetual, or should you really be moving on after a certain period of time? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I'm probably a real expert on grieving, and it's individual for each person. There's no rule of thumb. Some people shut it all down and get on with things, and they literally stop being the person that they were because they don't cope in different ways, whether it's emotionally, they just get on with things. I certainly had a conversation with somebody that said, when my son died, I died. And that really was quite dramatic, because it depends on how we deal with things. Or, the way to feel safe to cope is a shutdown of feelings and emotions, and a kind of a get back on the horse and get on with it. And that doesn't work for some people, because if you do that, you're not living, you're existing. And so from my perspective, it's important to express your feelings and emotions. It's important when you feel them to let them out and find somebody that actually you can talk to and be that open with, because there are times that it's important to do that. And there are times that you don't have to do it, that you're feeling okay. A grieving, a bereavement is such a personal journey. There's no one way to grieve, and there's no one way that's right or wrong. It's your way. Nobody can tell you not to cry. Nobody can tell you not to not handle it. And nobody can tell you that you should just get back to work and sort yourself out and just get on with it. Nobody can tell you what to do. It's you. It's your journey. Because if you don't handle the feelings and emotions, it then affects the body. It then affects you in other ways: high blood pressure, low blood pressure. It affects the skin. It affects the hair. It can affect physicality of aches and pains. And it can affect your ability to be able to do the things that you're used to doing. And it can affect your perspective. If you haven't handled the emotions and feelings, it affects your heart, and literally it will feel like a weight on your chest that you're holding and carrying and not coping, and literally it will affect your breathing. And the world will seem dark. The world will seem like you've stepped into a battle, that every day is in a battle. A bereavement and losing somebody, everybody handles it in their own private way. And what I'm saying here, no way is the right way. It's good to have people around you that support you in whatever way it comes up for you. That's very important, because when you're isolated and dealing with a bereavement and a grieving on your own, especially in our changed times, we're not grieving in the way that we should, and we're holding it in.
Yes, thank you so much. I know over decades, people have shared their stories of loss. And one thing I've heard repeatedly is no one knows how I feel, and therefore I just keep it to myself. I think people are tired of hearing me talk about it, and people tell me I need to go find someone else, or do something to keep myself occupied. I have heard people say that, and I feel at the time what a lonely place that must be.
It is, because there is a requirement in the Western culture particularly to get on with it. Somebody said to me this week, just get back on the horse and get on with it. Great piece of advice. If you are struggling emotionally, it's not very compassionate. It's not very helpful, because if you just get on with it, it doesn't address the undealt with feelings and emotions, which literally start to affect you emotionally in the body, physically in the body. It will affect you. Anybody that has had a grieving that they've not dealt with emotionally will have problems with breathing and upper back problems around the shoulder area. That's just a fact, in terms of the work that I do. And it will feel like there's a weight on the front of the chest, and it will feel like life is hard, like you just have to get through it. And it's a very dark place to be in that place. And the way to overcome, to change how you're feeling, is to allow the emotions. And when you allow the emotions, and you don't know when they're going to come up, they just do. It can be something that reminds you. It can be another death. It can be, somebody says something and then you feel emotional. And it's important to allow the emotions and feelings. Otherwise, you move into a place of being on autopilot, that you're going through the motions without the emotion. And that's not helpful for you and for the people around you.
Caroline, you shared so many valuable insights and your expertise today. Thank you. Would you please share with our audience how they can reach out to you, how they can get a free 30-minute Zoom stress buster, and who you would like to contact you?
This free stress buster is whatever is irking you, whatever is challenging you. So whatever you're complaining about, call. Well, drop me an email first to book in, because we're global here. We are worldwide, and the phone can't handle all the different time zones. So email me at nomorestress@live.co.uk and reach out and let me know what the best timing is for you, what the best days are, and we will do a backwards and forwards to plan and book in that free 30-minute consultation. I promise you it will relax you, you will feel different, and you'll get an incredible night's sleep. That is my guarantee. Please reach out. Please take advantage of this offer, because I'm here to serve you. Because when I serve you, I also serve myself.
Absolutely beautiful and delightful as always. Thank you so much, Caroline. I really appreciate you.
It's been a pleasure. I don't know where the time goes.
I don't either. I forgot to run any sponsorships, so sorry about that, sponsors. All right, Caroline, you have a beautiful evening, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much. Take care. Have a beautiful weekend. I look forward to
Thanks, you
seeing you
too.
on Sunday.
Absolutely. I'll see you on Sunday.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. We're just happy to have you, whether it's on the live or the replay. If you would like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to our website. It's usaglobaltv.com. And if you're watching from our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV, please do subscribe. We have 29 shows a week on average. 23 of them are shows like this, where there's an interactive conversation. And the other 6 are our talking heads, our experts who come from around the world to present in their own 30-minute show. So we'll be signing off right now, as our next show is coming up, and it's called Loving Longevity. And we'll be back after that with presenting Pet Psychic Amina, and then we will sign off for the week. Thank you again, Caroline. Thank you, everyone. Bye.